big tumour in your chest, big tumour by your spleen, an incalculable amount in your liver. It's gone all over the place. We need to put you on this treatment, otherwise, if you don't do anything, you got under a year to live. It's probably the most heartbreaking thing you can think of, right? Not being there to see my boys grow up, because my oncologist was like, you could go downhill so fast, and actually have subsequently been told, once it does start to accelerate, it could be game over very quickly. And do you know what? I just went, okay, I'm going to live the absolute heck out of this year. I wanted genuinely to go, this is the biggest fuck you to cancer, right? I was like, you're not taking my dreams. It's not going to break me. It's not going to break what I want. And I think learning as well is like, keep growing as people, keep learning, keep pushing forward. Even when you're suffering, you can still go, right, I'm going to choose who I'm going to be today. But this last year has given me so much hope. And I push through in this fight for my life to show that if you believe, if your mindset is right, if you're unwavering in your mission to survive and thrive, then I can sit here now fully appreciating what life and all that has us to offer. I'll continue to love my wife, see my beautiful children through the different stages of their precious lives, by their side as the proudest dad in the world.
I'm on a mission to help the world to see success differently. We're sharing the stories of our guests. I hope to inspire those that listen. This is the Different Hats podcast, produced by H2 Productions. I hope you can join us on this journey. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about one of our sponsors, Nostos, an authentic experience of Greece right here in the heart of Hove. In a world brimming with dining options, finding that one place that captivates your palate and heart isn't always easy. It's about more than food. It's the stories, the ambience, the slice of another world. This is the essence of Nostos, an award-winning Greek restaurant. With traditional recipes passed down through generations, each dish promises a story and a piece of heritage. And Nostos is more than just a restaurant, it's a community contributor. Each dining experience supports initiatives close to their heart, from local charities to cultural events enriching Brighton and Hove's social fabric. They also provide catering services, bringing Greek cuisine to your personal events. For a taste of Greece without leaving town, visit nostos-hove.co.uk. And when you do go, say Sam recommended the feta nests. Oh my God, they are amazing. Okay, welcome to another episode of the podcast. I have the real privilege of having an inspirational Gavin O'Donoghue with me today. Gavin, look, we're going to kick off always, mate, with our check-in. Right? And I like to, obviously, I know we met, obviously we got put in touch and we met and had a wonderful chat in Soho House not too long ago. And I was just... what you shared in your inspirational story, and I was just delighted to obviously have you on. So brilliant to have you here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
And look, like I said, we're going to kick off with our check-in. Right? So, Gavin O'Donoghue, you all right, mate?
Sam, thank you so much for having me. I hugely appreciate being here. How am I? I think at the moment, life is pretty tough, for me, dead honest. Today, I feel good because I'm with you and had a nice little coffee this morning. And it's chilly outside and the sun is shining. But I've been fighting cancer for 3.5 years now. Actually longer than that, it's been 2019, but actually I got stage 4 prognosis 3.5 years ago, and unfortunately I've been through a number of different treatments, and we're now in a position where I'm really up against it. Things progressed quite badly just before Christmas. And so kind of the body definitely is telling me that I'm not quite all right. And I've been looking at all sorts of clinical trials or trying to get onto those. And obviously we can kind of go into all this kind of in a bit. But again, and there is a little bit of hope there. But definitely I'm feeling a bit more up against it than I have been in a little while. Yeah, that's the honest truth.
Mate, well, look, thank you always, I guess, for sharing. Honestly, I guess that's one of the things with the whole campaign that I started with the "You All Right, Mate" thing is to try and get that from people, right? That honest, because we can so many times just go, yeah, I'm fine, and actually, especially like I said, we will delve into your diagnosis and where you are on that a little bit later. But I guess, when physically and when our health is we're struggling with that, actually that becomes the most important thing, right, within our lives. And we're actually, without that, we haven't got much. It's the thing to just, I guess, acknowledging where we are and being honest about that. And I guess for you, like, share that like today, and like you said, where you are being up against it at the moment, that mindset. What you mentioned, hope. Like, where does that feeling come from?
Kind of, it's been something which has underpinned my whole cancer journey, if I'm being honest. You want to keep believing. Keep your positive pants on, keep rocking, dust yourself down after bad news. I think, and you can do that, and I've done it, and and again, we'll talk about friends and support, and I feel incredibly lucky that I have so many amazing people in my life. But sometimes it then almost kind of reaches a crux point where you think, okay, it's dialing up now, big time. And you can see it in my oncologist's face as she's given me the news. And yet the hope comes from literally for about just over a year. I've looked at different trials, but I've been rejected from them, or they haven't been kind of coming through, or because I'm into that kind of territory now. And literally just before Christmas, it was fun. I could tell you this story. So I was back up north, put on my accent a bit for you. And I'd taken my boys. I've got a 12-year-old and a lovely little beautiful 9-year-old, 2 little boys, and taken them with my northern family, on mum and dad and lots of cousins, to a place called Donoghue. And no joke, I'd literally randomly bumped into my wife's family, who I've never seen unless they're down in Brighton, right? But I've got some northern contingent up there. Started yapping away. Anyway, we all go in to this, it was like a bit of a winter wonderland, like Glow Wild at Wakehurst or something like that. Next thing, I lost my boy, right? I lost my youngest because he's just, off he went with his cousins or whatever. But I could not find him, and he started panicking, ran back, legged it the other way. Next thing, I got this missed call on my phone. And, no, not missed call on my phone. It got this withheld number coming through. I got a missed call from my dad as well, trying to find him as well. Answered it, and it was an oncologist, also and a doctor from the Marsden up in London. And he goes, I'd love to talk to you about a potential trial. And I was like, oh, that's the best news. But I tell you what, if I do not find my son, and I've lost him right this very second, I ain't making it to any meeting with you because my wife would have already killed me. So I said, can can we put this on hold until maybe tomorrow? Is that all right? Because I'm literally shitting myself. I was like, and he laughed and he just went, I promise I'll call you back this time tomorrow. And I was like, that is amazing. and then finally I found him. Oh my gosh, after having absolute palpitations. So a little bit of hope came and we finally spoke. And that actually was a big family do the next day as well, where everyone had got together, had family coming from Singapore and Mexico. Oh, it was amazing. It was brilliant. And they'd said one of the trials I've been trying to get on for the last year had finally been approved. And I've been told it hadn't been approved 2 weeks before. So, it was just now lots of question marks and things like that in terms of whether or not, and, hoops to jump through. But that, clearly raises the spirits. And from getting the news 2 weeks before, where it was like, you're going to see out your days, right? Type of thing. And it could be quite swift. And that still might be the case, right? But actually, when you go, and I've tried everything, right? We'll come on to this. I've thrown the absolute, health kitchen sink at this. But that then raises your spirits. And I've been seeing them, and do you know what? I've got a call this afternoon, so we're seeing each other in the morning. So fingers and toes and everything else crossed on that. So that's where my hope comes from. Sorry, very long way. This is a 4-hour podcast.
I'm happy for it to be that. I'm
not sure about that. No one else is.
Mate, that's and I guess like I often find that with many people I spoke to on here, and especially talking about adversity and things, sometimes we face when we're in dark places for whatever that reason be, whether it's mental illness or physical illness or whatever that looks like. But ultimately, all of us, if there is just some form of hope, whatever that is, and whatever your mindset can be around that, if there's something that we can hold on to with that, then that sometimes is all we need. Yeah.
It's just kind of gives you that boost again that we all need. And when it feels like the rug has been pulled and there isn't anything, I still, even knowing that, I was like, I'm going to have the greatest Christmas ever with my boys, right? And my beautiful wife and my family. And we're just going to make the most of all the moments. And so that, we can talk about being present, and it's so bloody important, right? So I'd already made that decision, and then to get that news on top was a bit of a cherry on top. And then, you live in that moment, and over the last couple of weeks, we've had the most amazing Christmas. Honestly, it's been the best. And then coming to the new year, where there is that little bit of hope as well, then we'll see where we go.
Amazing. And I'm keen with that, like talked about the presence and being in the moment, and like I guess how much go back to you from before, like did you live life like that? Was that at the forefront of your mind, or is it because of, like you said, almost where you're in a situation where the rug potentially pulled out from under you, that forces you to just go, wow, what else have I got now other than to be in the moment right now? How do you?
Old me, pre-2019, and definitely pre the last 3.5 years, probably like most of us, no. Or not like most of us. I think I still do. I still got my hand in. I can't help it. But worked for 20 years as an executive search consultant. So, basically in the financial markets. And you're always, it just, once you build that momentum, You're always on to what's the next thing, planning further forward. Almost, even with successes, don't always enjoy them. I look at my colleagues and I hope my situation, I know it has helped them because I tell them off, like, enjoy it, enjoy this moment, take yourself back, go and do that. And I know, because you build that momentum on life that then creeps into so many different areas. And I've always, we try and be the best parent we can be. But I know that I wasn't always present, right? You might be there physically, but you're either sending another email, or you're doing this, or you're kind of, multitasking terribly. I'm a useless man. But and then, I knew in so many, and I would be present when every weekend, my best time of the week, every week, right? We live near 2 brilliant parks, and we generally go on a little mission with the dog and all of us, and go and spend 2 hours in the park, right? Go to our favourite bench, chill out, play I Spy, climb trees, go and play the floor is lava in these massive trees, have a kickabout, play hide and tag, which is basically kind of hide and seek, but kind of catching, and they're always too fast. And my old carcass isn't what it used to be. But 2 hours ago like that, and I love it. And then that was on both days. Then we go to another part the other day, or go on a long walk, which they'd moan about, but actually they enjoy it at the end of it ish, especially if they've got the hot chocolate along half the way. So a balance, but I don't think I was very good at it. I think, and the busier I got, and the more work consumed my mind, because you care, and you can make all the excuses you want to, but I just very hard sometimes to. I found it very, very hard to segment and switch off.
I think you speak for so many. And I wonder whether do you think that society as a whole is that there's a pressure on us to do more, right? Like to seek more things and do more stuff, especially when it comes to work and things like that. Like, you should be here, and I guess especially within the financial markets, is about money and finance, and more about numbers, and the more numbers you got, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a focus from society that's what's the constant growth and the constant progression and the constant productivity is what is key, and that's someone who's then successful. And I guess I'm keen to just, from that and where you are now, like the question I ask everyone, how do we define success? I guess I'm keen to see how that's changed for you. If I was to ask the definition of, mid-20s Gavin or early 30s Gavin, what was success then, and starting out in your 20-year career, and what is that definition now?
I think success back then, you're not thinking of meaning and purpose and all these other beautiful things back then. You're thinking a bit of survival, right? You're getting into a career, or it starts as a job for many. There's not many. My wife, that's all she wanted to be was a teacher. She knew it. She had a calling off the bat, right? I didn't. I mean, everyone falls into recruitment. It's the old cliche. And had friends making good money after uni. So you get into it that way. And I think being naturally pretty competitive and treated in a very transactional way, it was like, right, I need to make a certain amount of money. I need to hit my targets. It's all so, and then what I want to do is, how do I kind of increase my client flow? How do I increase the amount of kind of candidates I'm getting? How do I improve my close rates? Right, okay, but how do I build on it? And then how do I beat the last year? And how do I beat the last year? And then So for quite a number of years, it was the competition with yourself as much as, external targets. And really, I think, and coming back to almost kind of what you mentioned, and I'll come back to kind of success in a minute, but I think once you build a momentum for yourself and a standard of living, you have to work so hard to just maintain that. And then there's lots of external changes and pressures. Your industry that I've been working in for many, many years has evolved so much and actually started to shrink. And there's loads of challenges. And you have to evolve a lot with it, which is stressful and difficult. And sometimes you don't want to do it, right? And I'm like, but as I've grown, so yeah, mine was very materialistic initially. But once I was always a very relationship-driven person, so I found it quite hard. And hard with a cookie-cutter approach. I used to work for a big FTSE 100 firm, which was amazing to teach me the whys and wherefores of making money, and it was. But then I moved into, and that was in more of the contingent world, just advertising and making placements that way. And I moved into the kind of world of search, which is all very posh and different. It's absolutely not. It's just recruitment, but we place people on much higher salaries, and then but also much better access to boards, and then you start building in. And I think success evolved because I managed to hired better people, hired a great team that incredibly rely on massively, and that success became, how do I create more meaning for this? So I'm moving from competing at this level to competing in the big leagues against all these wonderful pinky ring fellas. I'm joking, but I'm not, because a lot of them were kind of all these wonderful networks that they had from school and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, Cardinal Allen back in Fleetwood, is that going to help me at all with this? No, it's absolutely not. A lot of wonderful people came out of Cardinal Allen, but not in finance, or not too many in finance. But then putting your own stamp on it. So success became, right, how do I add more meaning to this? How can I impact people's lives? How can I help people? And people might go, what? You're in finance. Like, they're all these well-paid, almost, why does it matter? You're not doing charity work, or you're not doing this. But it's how I saw my job. So it became job, career. And then I framed it like it was a calling, right? Read loads, and more through, I learned a lot from the people I was helping, right? So I was like, how do I become, when okay, I'm in this, right? How do I get the absolute most out for myself, for my own development, my own happiness, my own satisfaction? Success became, I wanted to be a genuine expert and doing deeper work. We'd help all these top distribution professionals from all over the world. Every time I was like, what are you reading? What are you listening to? What podcast? What about this? Right. And then there was a lot of synergy and similarities. I was like, all right, brilliant. Reading all of them, helping all these investment guys. I mean, I started reading all this stuff. I didn't have a clue, honestly, like literally. But then if you've got a curious mind, and this is the worst definition, by the way, of success ever.
Hey, this is gold.
No, it's
you
not.
Go,
anyway.
you go.
But success, success became knowledge, belonging, impact on their lives. I used to love, the more I could learn with my team, and I don't say because we all shared, and we had the most amazing business at Carpenter Faraday, and like they're still incredibly good to me. It's like I feel so blessed. But I'd learn about culture, and I want to go and represent who's the best bosses out there and why. Who've got the right characters? Who are the ones that treat people incredibly well, right? And then rather than go and try and rock up and go, please work with me, here's all my credentials, this is why I'm wonderful. I try and go, this is what I know about you. You know, we're all just got, it's all a lot of bricks and mortar around it, but it's just essence, all these different businesses, just a lot of great people together, right? But why? Why do they all want to work for you? And how are you galvanizing them? And then what can I learn from leadership? And what can I learn from the psychology of it? And it just it starts to bloom and develop. And I found, so success to me was like, I feel like rather than serving them, you start to think, God, I can actually help them. Or like, have you read this? What about, like, I know the great leaders that I speak to are looking at this, this and this. This might help you. And like, they would like, I'd be like the most unofficial kind of counsellor to loads of them, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a very lonely place. The more up the tree you get, the less people they've got to almost talk to and share. Or you can share it with your wife. I share what's happening with my wife. She's like, no, I'm not interested. Or like, we'll empathise to a level. And so success came that kind of impact you could have on people's lives, and then the friendships I would build, and so cultivated almost like I love like the family, so almost like the extension of friendships and all this, and I loved like I've got so many wonderful friends from that industry now, but also how you keep learning. How do I improve year on year what I understand about that industry? How can I add more insights into that kind of business? How can they come to me and go, teach me something I don't know? And there was an amazing book. I mean, God, but like I read all the, lots of the kind of the hardcore sales books, but then I came across a book called The Challenger Sale. I don't know if you ever, by I think Brent Adams and Matthew Dixon. I could be wrong with that, but like, and that was more. I think it was like, teach Taylor, take control. And I was like, because my parents are teachers, my wife's a teacher, my sister was a teacher, lots of my family, like I'm a frustrated teacher, right? And it was then reading these books, and we'd already been doing some of these things in our kind of presentations and how I was trying to engage. And so, that just kept evolving that, and it's how I was improving year on year. Just not, and then almost the financial rewards would almost take care of themselves. And so that's where the career led. But also a lot of those things have really helped me now for my last 3.5 years. And
what key things have come out like from that leadership? There's a couple of things there that I really want to touch. Like one thing I heard you say, and what really resonated with me, there was the feeling of being successful and creating success. One thing you mentioned there about how can I help other people to do that. Like, there was a podcast I listened to by it's called The Path of a Swami by a monk, and he basically said there's 3 keys to success. Right? One of them was genuinely being happy for others that are successful. The second was loving what you do. Right? And the third was helping others to be successful. Right? And that will then, if you can do them 3 things, you ultimately are successful yourself. And I think like just listening to you can tell that although potentially getting into into that industry wasn't your calling at the start, right? You didn't maybe, I'm sure we'll go back to maybe childhood.
Complete imposter syndrome. Didn't have a clue what I was talking about. Right?
And for some, but to find that you enjoyed it or become the best that you gain that knowledge, become the best you can possibly be, and then love more what you do because you're becoming an expert in that field. You're ticking that box, and then like just listening to what I heard you say about just trying to help others to be, there's something so important, I think, in that message, right?
Well, I think if you can find something you love, or even within your job, right? Even if you're not, there's elements of it you don't like, but if you can see other people grow and develop, or as a leader, within my own business, bless them, that they get sick of me like preaching at them, going, "Oh, what about this? You should read this. You look at that. There's something else." And they're like, "Oh, you're right, Gav." But I think what that then, and I suppose it's, you don't know what you don't know, right? I mean, we can come back to kind of uni and growing up in life, but I think I wasn't mature enough, right, back then. I just wasn't. I had a great old time, but I wasn't mature enough. And I think I became more academic and more thoughtful, and I found, actually, okay, I can do this. I really love, I love people. I find people fascinating, I'm preaching to converted it. Yeah. But also, and I love learning about them, and I love trying to help if I can. There's a brilliant book called Give and Take, Give and Take, by a guy called Adam Grant. If you haven't, I mean, everything by Adam Grant is amazing, but how you can be a giver and a take as well, or kind of win as it, right? And I was like, so if I can help lots of people, and you can give advice, and there'd be times where you'd learn, almost, I knew certain people would never leave their businesses, but I helped them progress through it. I'd be like, right, this is what I know so and so has done. Put a business plan together. Here are some of the ideas you could put together. This is what I know your boss is like from everything I've heard, right? And this is what other people have tried in the past. All this, it's like, right, so, and then some of them would flourish in their own businesses, but then they'd come back and go, "Gav, can you help me? Can you do this for me?" And I'd be like, "Oh, amazing, right?" But also, there was also like, success and helping people, then it starts coming back on you, but in ways where there's a brilliant guy called Jim Collins who wrote Good to Great, Built to Last, all these amazing books on business. Absolutely incredible. Lots in America. And I've got this, so he talks about building your own personal board of directors, right? All these different mentors. And so I had an amazing mentor. My MD was brilliant. We're quite different how we look at things, but he can cut through the noise very quickly and gets to the point. And I've learned, and so whenever we would have complex kind of issues, we would debate and discuss them. Our chairman, a brilliant guy called David Singleton, I've learned so much from him. And again, but then I was like, right, how do I, and a number of kind of colleagues who have been amazing, kind of almost, friends or mentors for years, but also then from the industry. So a lot of my clients, I would like, right, didn't tell him on my personal board of directors, but every time I took him out for lunch, right, I'd be like talking about leadership, trying to learn about that, but also give them information back on their own business, right? So I was like, don't quote me, but these are some of the almost what one of them, an amazing guy called Andy Steele, who runs James Hambro and Partners, but like some would understand the heartbeat of the business. It just inspire you so much. But he'd use this little phrase where he would go around the business putting out little fires, right? When he could just see and he would observe what was going on. And before anything became too big, and maintaining the culture. And if I could help with just things I'd heard or little bits on maybe where those fires might be, or with other clients doing something kind of similar, but also just building a whole range of different cognitive diverse people who thought in a different way to me and could challenge the way I thought or can teach me different things, but I could hopefully teach them back, right? This really amazing network of people, which, and it became very, a lot of reciprocity. And I don't know if I'm quite answering your question, but it was, that's where, but helping people was, and actually everybody on the team and the way we give advice and the way across the business, we're always trying to, help people, and whether we can help them or not, we'll give them honest advice on their careers if we know them really well. Like some people will come out and go, life advice, whatever, right? It doesn't matter. A lot of, when you've done it for so long, you know them so well, almost the guilt you have over, which gets built up over many years, is so many people then want to reach out, and you have to be, stricter with your time, and ever more so now, right? I don't have the energy. I can't. I wish I could still give as much. But success now, where it was, and I still get and I speak to loads of these guys all the time, right? Who are checking in, send me beautiful messages. I helped this amazing lady called Ilga move from Germany years ago, and I mean, she just sends me, like she wrote when I first got ill, she wrote me this little book with all these inspiring quotes on. It was unbelievable. And she'll light candles wherever she goes, and she sends me this really inspiring stuff, lots of messages, and I just feel blessed. Like genuinely, there's been people who are, far smarter than I am, right? But and then their capacity to learn and kind of take it in, and I'm this absolute kind of imposter who's just like, but then and then pay it back, help them. And found my, I managed to find my place with that. And I think it was a level of success. And now my own success is, the achievements don't matter. It's the impact. It's the being present 100%. It's not about me planning for the future. Or planning, you've always got a plan. There's one of my wonderful friends called Sven, who lives in Brighton. He fought cancer for 8.5 years, and he passed away last summer. And he was so inspiring. I mean, he was an amazing guy to have when I got my initial prognosis. What I admired about him, and I thought, God, and he was so inspiring, he was always on to the next thing. Okay, yes, I mean, he was a very positive individual, massively positive. He did struggle, like we all do, but he would reset and go again. But he was always planning, right? He'd be like, I've got stuff in for next month. This is what I'm doing. And what about the next month after that, right? And I've got holiday, I've got plan and all this kind of stuff. He was always like, things to look forward to. And he was amazing at living in the moment, but always not. It wasn't just purely living in that moment, because almost the belief was, I'm going to be in that moment there as well, and that is going to be epic, and that and that and that. And I've tried to take a level of balance that he taught me into, what I do. So not, being present and being with my kids and having a hug and reviewing the days together, and we can come into that in a bit, and just sitting with my wife, giving her a foot massage. And I appreciate the moments so much more now, and actually lean into them. When you go, right, let it wash over you. This is because it's not like I want to go and I need to go travel. I need to go and do this. I need to go and still see that. I need to go and do this. I need to go. What you want to do is keep normality, right? What are the little things? I want to go spend 2 hours in the park with the kids, right? I want to be. What are they going to remember? Dad's still having loads of fun with us, right? And just, I'm sitting there and we're having a hug and we're chatting about life, right? And that is gold. That's what success is now, right? Not to over it, but my God, it took a long time to get there. But I'm sorry, sorry, I know we're bouncing.
No, mate, no. Not honestly, that is so. Something I really I'd love to just explore with you, I guess. think what you depict as when you're younger, when you're sort of striving for success, or you're looking at what success might mean. The realisation you've come to now, which many sometimes do later in life, for whatever that looks like, whether they've had midlife crisis or whether you've, become ill or whatever, where something's happened where you go, actually, let me take stock and have a look on what's really important. And you go, but do you think, look at your 12 and 9, right? My kids are 10, so we're a similar age. I'm wondering what can we teach our kids or that next generation about success? Because actually, my learnings from 150 episodes nearly of asking people what they think success is, we've come up with this framework now, which is my 5 pillars: and balance, authenticity, presence, fulfillment, relationships. That's what success means to people of all levels, or everyone I've spoke to. I guess what can we teach the next generation to understand before having to face an illness or a crisis of some kind, some form of adversity, to have that realisation? Do you think we can teach the kids that this is what real success is?
Yeah. Well, you could almost, you can take it all the way through to end of life, right? And you can look yourself in the eye and you go, what, all these material things, look, you have to live, right? You've got to make an income, and you want to be able to support yourself. But the only thing I'm thinking of is, like, the most important things for me are connection, right? People I love, right? Love and genuinely, I'm like, at the end of the day, what do I want? And if you then work that back, and you go, treat people well, be kind, as you said, be authentic. And these are, when I'm speaking to them, it's almost that micro learning where you're trying to drop these things in. They're both at lovely school, but they're hopefully pretty well balanced, right? But you don't know the outside influences, and they're going to kind of face through their life. But I think I chased. So I what I can say to them is, yes, Daddy did, fairly well financially for us as a family, but at what cost, right? I wasn't able. So if I work that back, I didn't have the tools or I didn't listen to my body enough, my intuition, and some of the warning signs of chronic stress. 100%. I would get, I'd lived with that anxiety, and either, yes, I'd go to the gym and do exercise, but I'd also go out and enjoy myself, and you found different ways of escapism. But I would rather they, learn how to meditate, right? And we talk about it, and I do breath work with them, right? Little baby breath work. But like, whenever I get, so because I know it's hard. We only really told them about the situation, like, but the proper situation and how almost a bit stark it is in January last year. And I know it reared its way, that they reared its head quite a few times in terms of them feeling anxious or didn't really know what they were feeling. And then we would breathe it through and we would do these things, right? So I think, but success for them would be, you can go and do, like, know how you process stress, right? I didn't, still, I didn't have the tools, right? If you can give them the tools, then they can maybe go on to experience way higher things than I could ever do, right? What does your little toolkit look like? And success, what I found, even in the industry, was everybody was going into how can I make an impact, right? When the huge wave of sustainable investment kind of came in, and then working on things which, like everybody wants to do, like this is the impact I'm going to leave, and this is, this is how we measure it, and this is kind of how I can then kind of my own self-worth is kind of linked into that. Amazing. But just, I was going to say, do something that makes you happy or kind of makes you fulfilled. But also, as you said, as we talked about before, I'm also then practically or pragmatically thinking, we all know how hard it is now to get on to the housing ladder. Success is, we will live in the most ever-changing world. That if you look outside the window, right, or you look at the news and you look what, he's doing on the other side of the Atlantic all the time, you're just like, blimey out, or, in Far Eastern Europe. And so I'd like them to, one, be able to kind of self-sustain, make enough money that they're comfortable. But maybe they won't. Or maybe they'll go, look, maybe they'll be like Dad. Maybe they won't have much, they'll be all or nothing, right? They'll have no off filter, right? They'll be like, how do I manage this, Dad? Can I go and find a career that kind of suits me? Well, if that is who you are, and that is your personality type, and you've got a good dose of ADHD stuck in there, right? Then here are all the tools that you can kind of lean into to cope and avoid yourself being anywhere near what's happened to myself, right? Success is health, isn't it?
Yeah.
Success is... sorry, I know I'm bouncing around.
Not at all. But this is...
But I think... health is... Health, when... before I got my prognosis, health was number 7 or 8 on the list. We all take it for granted until we can't. And then life just absolutely, Mike Tyson style wallop around the face, and you're like, bloody hell, shit. Okay. And then you become a little health guru, and then you learn so much. Or I took the fear of that and reframed it. Tried to reframed it and went, right, I'm going to learn, and I'm going to use this as a learn opportunity to go and learn about all these amazing things. So,
and was that one of the things, I guess, like you was mentioning earlier about taking stuff from work and from your journey and the capacity to learn and is that something that's helped with your diagnosis, getting it and going, right, okay, what can I learn about myself, about my body, about what I can do to prolong as long as possible or to be as healthy is that something you really took from your learn as within your industry and the stuff that you learn from business into that? Or
I think
the capacity to learn, I guess, for you.
Yeah, just capacity to be curious, and it's interesting. There's no one way of approaching like what we go through, right? When I'd speak to my nurses, they'd say there's a few who want to know everything, a bit like you nosy bugger, and read everything. And there's others that, are in denial, and as a coping mechanism, and they come and they get the treatment and they shut it off. And Sven did with his partner read a lot of stuff, but he dealt with things in a very similar way to that. He said to me, he was like, look, didn't read loads of stuff, I just got on with life. And he lasted 8.5 years, and I was like, you know what, that sounds pretty good. But on the flip side, I lent into learning and felt that if I could do that, I could have a level of control over this, because you feel completely out of control, right? So the more I can learn, the more I can understand about, my cancer, understand about, what's the most important thing. So speaking to my oncologist, like, is it, so I had to go on immunotherapy treatment because I got, sorry, I've not even gone into it, but I got a melanoma, back in 2019, got the all clear on it, and then found a lump in my chest, which is still there, and it had spread, but chemo had never worked on it. And I'm grateful that I'm here in this time, because I wouldn't be here 10 years ago at all. And so, immunotherapy, a lot of it's based on your immune system, right? Shock. And I was like, how do I make that as kind of strong as possible? And what are all the kind of different variables around that? So if I can control all those and do what I can around it, then hopefully, the immunotherapy will work alongside it and give me the best possible chance. And so I think, a lot of the ways in which I approach things at work and would do the work and would love reading around things and would love, that love of learning, definitely can help me. I also, as a leader in the business, I've been a director for about 14 years, so I've kind of like co-run it for, for many, many years. And so people look to you, and I've always tried to kind of teach positive psychology, right? And it was the most amazing book. When you preach a lot of this stuff for ages, and then you're like, oh shit, okay, I need to practice what I preach now, right? Because ultimately it's a slightly different battle, but it's life. And I bore a lot of my guys. I read this amazing book called The Happiness Advantage by a guy called Sean Acor, who studied Harvard. Happiness at Harvard, and I broke down like use that as a bit of a framework for myself. So immunity one side, how do I keep my mindset really strong and focused and positive around the other? And there's a thing which applies to all of us. There were things he talked about called the Zorro circle, where, it would be, you've got a problem, it's like this, but you start off small, right? How do you eat an elephant? You just start, right? But also, when you're feeling very overwhelmed, you take, what are the things I can control, the small things. So again, with my immune system, where do I start? Let me start on nutrition, right? And I managed to speak to some amazing people. Amazing guy called Rich, who was incredibly helpful to me and had cancer as well. Unfortunately passed. But he'd introduced me to this amazing nutritionist, and she was incredible. You get the dietitians in the NHS, and they were great, but very general. And this lady was amazing. I can mention her name, Carol Granger, and she helped me so much. Wrote me this, number of pages on that. So I was like, okay, I've got that, and I'm going to be able to kind of control an element of that, and then did the rest around it. And then there was things with the Happiness Advantage called the Tetris effect. So this is something where they got these guys kind of playing Tetris, I can't remember, for like 24 hours or whatever it is. And when they came out, all they would see were these Tetris shapes. A lot of it's based on, if you look for, if you look for the negative, you're going to find it, right? In all these different negative shapes. But if you look for the positive, you're more like, and you can train your brain, right? After a period of time to kind of do that. So I do every night with my boys, right? We lie in bed, in our bed much, and then generally they go, "God, my dad, let's get together," and then and we'll review the day, and we'll talk about the things that they were really. Tell me your 3 positive things, and most of them start with food, right? 100%. What they have for lunch, something like that. But like, what about what did you do for someone else? What was kind? And we talked about this a little bit, right? Yeah. But also, did anyone, let's talk through any sort of issues. Like, so what about, were you upset at all today? Okay, let's talk through that. And then how do we leave that in a kind of positive spin? And we just, but always trying to get them to, again, look for the positive, but I do it myself, right? And so keeping your mind positive and focused, and then there's loads. There's those 2, and then there's, but one of the biggest ones, I think called the 20-second rule. There's one called the fulcrum lever, but one is the social side, right? And what I loved reading, and it was something I've done anyway, as you can probably tell, but I was reading this book for about 10 years, and he did a brilliant podcast as well. Brilliant TED Talk. But it talks about those who struggled at Harvard were the ones who isolated themselves, and let the stress build and the pressure build, but they didn't build a big social network, the people they can lean into and swap and share, and the ones who thrived were the ones who had this, right? And so I was like, well, brilliant. I've got about a gazillion friends. but that has been, out of everything, the thing I am kind of just feel, as we talked about before, you open up the old window and you see all the absolute crap that's going on in the world. And yet I see every day the kindness. I'm so grateful to how many wonderful people I've got in my life, right? And honestly, and the best friends in Brighton, the best lads you could ever meet. I mean, they keep me so grounded. And they were the friends of Sven as well. And bless them, they've gone through the mill with 2 mates for bloody, going through this. But I mean, they're just brutal. They're brutal banter, just absolutely taking me down all the time, but keep you grounded. Brilliant friends from the north I met in college. I saw Lord back at Christmas. There's just so, my work friends, it's like a little family, right? Yeah. And that, and then never mind, family, never mind people I've met through Wolo that we will talk about, never mind, it's part of the reason I wanted to come on here and just say, oh my God, the biggest thank you in the whole world to so many of them. But also how many inspiring people, both in my old, director network, personal director, but also these amazing people that I continually get inspired from, learn from. And after genuinely getting bad news, it lasts for about a day with me, right? Or it might even last half a day. And I'm like, right, dust yourself down again. On we go again. And that might be after a call with one of them, right? And you reach out for different people for different things. Some really philosophical. Some I can just chat properly, talk through death about, right? And how we're going to face it. And others just, we talk absolute nonsense and make each other absolute hell with laughter. And if going through this, that is anyone going through it, just, having those people you can kind of go to and share. And sharing is not a weakness. Being vulnerable is a strength, right? With people who love you. And putting that trust in them and showing, people sometimes don't know how to deal with it. I mean, we talked about men are not very good at opening up. But
if there's a way of, like that message you just shared, like about how vulnerability is a strength and how to actually surrounding yourself and having those maybe uncomfortable conversations with people and mates and and being there, and then being able to share that space and listen and support, and that's the thing that's helped you, right? That's the thing that's helped you the most. Like, I think it's no surprise. Like for me, one of the 5 pillars was relationships, and I've shared my story and how like what got me through a dark time was the fact that I was surrounded by love and surrounded by people. And listen, what I've taken from what you're saying is that, right? Like, this is a tough, like the toughest thing that you're facing in life, right? Like what you're going through, and yet the people that are around you, the loved ones, and the care and the support, and different friendships for different things that you need at different times, and they're all there supporting on that journey is surely what we're here for. Right?
But that, it makes you a rich man, doesn't it? Right? The richest, because when you 100%. Look at it, and you
talk about success, that's it. Right?
But that is the crux of it, right? If you can't take your car with you, can't take titles, none of it. Like when you reach and you start staring into the, what might be. It's that. What do I want? I want to be with the ones I love, right? And I want to, and I just want to escape with them in terms of, or go and, spend time, or just, as we talked about before, that is success. And I've taught them about, takes nurturing, right? I know that sometimes life can just get in the way, and we're all so busy, and friends can, get kind of left to the side, and then I've been very lucky, and we'll go on to this in a bit, but just with, golf and things like that, even through COVID, loads, but just being a competitive side and playing loads of footy over many, many, many years, to then everyone getting too old and fat and knackered and broken, and then all moved into that. And so the fact I can go and see them legitimately without my wife divorcing me, although it's been close, and we go and, spend 3.5, 4 hours, sometimes 5, just chatting. And sometimes it can be really deep, and sometimes it can be complete not nonsense, and mostly nonsense. But it's that camaraderie, and I'm not going to say I'm lucky I play golf, because I feel very, very fortunate, but I genuinely do at times where I go, legitimately, I've got, and they're all up for it, and we've got a really great network of people that, of great mates I can go and do that with.
Because I guess I look at some of the stuff going on in the world, and I look at obviously a lot of the campaigning and the stuff I'm doing around mental health, right, and the struggle. And actually, when you look at things like suicide rates, and you look at the struggles that sometimes men face, is ultimately sometimes because we almost lose that a little bit as we get older, and family and business and life and everything gets in the way. And actually, you go, there's less and less time to spend with friends. There's less and less time because we prioritise other things, right? Like, of course, kids, you want to be there, but actually, I think ultimately, as a human race, and I'm not generalising, because I'm sure the same with women, but maybe they naturally do it more. But men, we're stopped doing that as much, and it's so important to pub culture's changed a lot, right? Like that's gone away a little bit more. But things like one of the reasons I want to start playing vets football again, just I miss it. 8 years I haven't played football because of my knee. I just miss just being around it, right? Just having that banter, that camaraderie, as you mentioned, that sitting in a changing room and taking a piss out of each other, or whatever that looks like. But just that togetherness that we, as men, we need, we crave it really, and it just gets lost a little bit. And I think like listening to you talk and listening to where you are at the moment, where and all of what you're going through, to hear that you've had that. I know you've shared with me, like you've recorded some things with friends and stuff, like podcasts, and getting them together and just capturing some of that, right? Capturing some of that amazing stuff.
I did that for my boys, right? Where I was thinking, if Dad's not here, then will they have, legacies? Like, feels quite selfish, but also, but just memories for them, right? And what was Dad like? What's and all. Yeah. And some of it is pretty punchy. I was like, oh my God, at what age can they listen to this legitimately? 45? Like, no. But
this has got a rating on
without
it.
judging me too much. But some of, great uni mates chatting about some of the absolute nonsense we used to get up to, and all the way through from speaking to me college mates, through work. I even interviewed my mum and dad, which was, do you know what? I was gold, honestly. Because there's things I learned, right? I'd spoken, you think you're speaking a lot to them. And also, if we don't capture some of these conversations, they're just going to get lost in ether, right? And, it was amazing. And I've just a real, a couple of clients, which was beautiful. Like, it was amazing. Just to shock, because I thought, like, they want to be like Chandler Bing, and the kids are going, "What did Dad do again?" Like, I no idea, and like, so I thought I'd do it both from a few mates' perspective, but also, right, this is where I kind of like spent most of my time, and incredibly cathartic, but also shared. So again, I've not shared it with anyone. Set up a private YouTube channel, but also, apart from shared the ones we did with the people I did it with, right? They're our memories. And I just, there's nothing's going to replace you. And it's probably the most heartbreaking thing you can think of, right? Not being there to see my boys grow up. I mean, I think I cried every time I looked at them when I first got my prognosis, because it was awful. And I'm better now, but I definitely, it's just that is the reality. And so you go, nothing's not, but is there anything I can do to at least, what would Dad do in this situation, right? Or what would Dad not do in this situation? Or, and I got even some of them growing up, we were talking about nightmare, started going out with girls and like the absolute disasters and like all this kind of stuff. It was really funny to almost kind of live back to those things and go, we all go through it, and we don't get much better at it, but like, picking up no signals, can't understand, it's been really, really fun with the people I've done it with, but also, and I feel guilt because there's so many more I'd love to do it with, but I it is that has been it's been something, and I've written other kind of stuff, like there's these amazing Dear Dad books. I'm putting a lot of the way I look at things, and I'd also done little videos just for them about almost some of the absolute nonsense we get up to, and done lots of different bits of filming, and I just want them to feel so special, but also, and there's a few things I'm doing at the moment in terms of, for birthdays and future and all these kind of things, and you go a lot, there's only, you feel as a parent, what's enough? There's never enough, right? But also, the thought of like, God, am I going to leave them in a strong enough financial position for that? And the answer is, I can do what I can do. And
I guess there's a balance there with that, isn't there? There's a balance with trying to give them so much and to remember, but at the same time, as you mentioned right at the start of the conversation, around still having that hope that actually things might be okay, and I still want to.
It's a really fine balance, right?
Of course.
Because you don't want to be defeatist. Yeah. And I've never been, but I'm a pragmatist in many ways. So keep the belief, but go almost, it's given me a level of comfort, because if I've spoken to quite quite a few different people about loss, and where they've all gone, you're going to be all right, you're going to be all right, we're going to believe, right? No, positive, and then they die, right? And they haven't done any of it because they've just gone, you're going to get through this. And I was like, but so I could do that. And I think that's, do you know what? Because they don't want to be negative around them and all this. And I'm like, but I'm also, I look at it and I go, I hear what my oncologist says every time. My situation has either been stable or gradually getting worse for God knows how long, right? So I'm a realist. I'm a pragmatist. I've been told many, many times, you're going to die on this treatment, right? Unless we can find something else. And even then, I've got like an insane amount of tumours in my liver and all this kind of and some of them have grown massively. So even if I get the right potential treatment next, my body might not be strong enough to can deal with it, right? So if I can then be as present as possible, knowing that's in the background, having a level of comfort with that, and again, that's my success as well.
Need a new van? Why not pop down to Rivervale in Brighton? Explore our range of new and used vans, lovingly prepared and ready to work just as hard as you do. Rivervale, making motoring manageable.
Because as well, I'm just wondering, listening to and some of the things you shared with me about the conversations you've had, and as you just mentioned about with different groups of friends and different stuff, like if there was no diagnosis and you're just going along life as we all do, you wouldn't have had those conversations and captured those magical moments and relived maybe. And maybe you do. Maybe sometimes down the pub we do, and I meet up some pals from Essex who I've grown up with, and at Christmas, and you talk about old times, and we didn't capture it on a thing, but you just chat about it, and you do, and there may be some memories there. But actually for all of us, really,
100%.
What an amazing, like you said, with your mum and dad, probably conversations that you wouldn't have with them. You wouldn't ask them type of questions because I think we live in a world where actually we don't talk about death because it's seen as a real, obviously it's seen as a negative, and it's seen as obviously it's sad and all of them things, and but we do live a life almost like that it is infinite, but it's not. Like all we know that it's finite. We're all aware of this, right? But we all put it to the back of our mind because we think, oh, it's going to happen to me this time in the future. I've got years and years to not even think about that when I'm old, and etc. But then I guess when, like, for you, I'd obviously be keen to maybe go back to that first diagnosis, and then maybe again in 22, like you're given that information, you're given that, that diagnosis that actually you might not have that long, you might not have that 50, 60 years that you thought you would, and the reality of your life being finite is there right in your face. Well, I guess can you take us back to that time? Obviously it's the thing that the news that no one really wants to hear, but how do you process something like that at the start? Like, what was the...
Yeah. I think the initial melanoma, which was, I used to have a shaved head, so thank God I can kind of grow it back. But it was just behind my ear. Do you know what? It'd been on my head for about 10 years. And I'd gone to the doctors a few times about it, and they'd gone, look, it's nothing, it's fine. And genuinely, in the end, I was skiing with the work lot, and I had a crash helmet on, and it started to get a bit bigger. But I had quite a few mates with similar, like, almost thing just behind the ear. But it looked the same as them, so I didn't really think anything of it. But they say I went skiing, And it started to bleed, and the inside of my helmet was all covered in blood, and I was like, God, that looks... So it had worn down. And I think then the exposure to the sun, and maybe at that point, maybe it wasn't a melanoma at that point, but then it really started to take off. And even then I went in, and I don't blame anyone, because it didn't look like a melanoma, right? It was weird, because normally it's like the edges are all a bit kind of all over the place, and it might be small and black, but mine was pink, honestly. And then it started to grow, and it was going through my hair, and I was like, look, get it off my head. I said, I don't care what it is, please. And even at that point, they were like, no, you'll be fine. I spoke to a dermatologist. I was like, great. So I was actually playing golf. Shock. And I got 10 missed calls on my phone. I realised, okay, off a number in it, no. Called it back. And the guy goes, look, I'm so sorry. It's about an aggressive melanoma, as seen. We need you in hospital tomorrow for a big operation. So they gave me, so they'd already taken it off, but they cut a wide around, took a much wider incision, dug in a bit. There wasn't much brain in there, so it was all right. And then they did a thing called a sentinel node biopsy. And that came back negative, so where they basically take out the lymph nodes closest to kind of where the melanoma was, to see if there was any kind of cellular melanoma in there. And there wasn't. And so I was, again, given the guidance that that's a really good thing. And so... And I mean, look, again, I got guided after about 18 months of scans kind of following up that you'd be fine, right? Funny enough, I kept getting passed around different doctors, but I've been with a dermatologist who was an expert in melanoma and all this kind of stuff. And he said, look, you got more chance of getting cancer again with all the scans. Because of all the radiation and everything else like this. Look, with the sentinel node biopsy, it's like 99%, right? I was like, brilliant. So that was a great relief. And it had been quite stressful, as you'd imagine. Getting that news was quite scary initially. But when I went in, and I literally was looking in the mirror one day, and I went, is that slightly raised compared to that? I didn't really think anything of it. I thought, I must have just pulled a muscle or something. But I went in, and they sent me to the sarcoma clinic. They took a biopsy. And then, I'll be honest, I was driving, and I was driving to play golf again with a client, right? And this was going to be, they just went, okay, so... brutally shy. He said, so it is metastatic melanoma, and we need you in hospital. So I was like, what? I was like, and they went, no, hadn't you already been told? I was like, no. It was, she just went, so it was like it was such a shock, because I genuinely didn't think it was going to be that. I burst out crying. I mean, I had to pull over. I couldn't even drive. And I remember, I was absolutely devastated. And then I thought, I'm still going to go. And it was near Macrobra with this wonderful man called Alan Goodwin, bless him, who's moved to New Zealand. And probably after I'd bloody play golf with him. But I turned up, and I ordered myself a bacon sandwich, and I burst out crying eating it. And then he turned up, and I burst out crying on him as well. And I was like... And I said, and he went, Jesus, and he was amazing. But we played 9 holes. And then I just thought, I need to go and see my wife. I just have to, because I'd messaged, and I called her and then told her, and then I'd just come back. I just was like, look, my head was a bit all over the place. And then we went in. So after a little while, it must have been about a week later, went in to see the oncologist, who I'm still with. It's amazing. And she said, look, you've got big tumour in your chest, big tumour by your spleen, an incalculable amount in your liver. It's gone all over the place. And you're just like, and if you don't, we need to put you on this treatment. Otherwise, if you don't do anything, you got under a year to live. And it's like, it's just a shock. It is, because I didn't know, gone to all these other kind of places. What I did get told was the immunotherapy was this new amazing treatment, and it works for, the percentages change, right? But 30, 35, 40%, right? It's revolutionised this. But another oncologist who's become a good mate, and he's a good mate, I played a lot of football with him, for enough. He said, look, it's a bit like magic. We don't really know why it works, right, on some. What they do know is it's down to your gut biome and certain bacterias either being present or missing, and so I ate the rainbow, went absolutely crazy on eating incredibly healthy. I look great, right? Honestly, you look, and but they put me on these two different kind of types of immunotherapy where they blast you with initially, and it knocked out my ability to produce cortisol. So it kind of damaged my pituitary gland, because it gives you, create quite a lot of autoimmune issues. Nobody really tells you that. Or they give you, obviously they do, but they give you the list as long as your arm, which just keeps going and going and going about all the issues you might get. It set my thyroid 4 times higher. So I lost loads of weight very, very quickly. About 6 kilos. That then eventually went hypo, so I went on thyroxine. And do you know what? For a period, and I kept working through it, because I was like, I'm full belief, going to get through this. Was
that from the start, after the initial, the initial shock? Was you quite quickly like, okay, but what's the procedure? Mindset, positive, just taking that from.
But you know what? But having like my mate Sven, who basically been there, unfortunately got the T-shirt, and speaking to him about it, and he was like, "Right, you're going to be all right." Like, and just again reaching out to different people, but also trying to speak to experts. I spoke to kind of other kind of doctors and oncologists in different places, just to go, look, am I doing the right thing? Is this the right treatment pattern for me? And again, feeling like, okay, I'm really, really comfortable with what we're doing here. It's got amazing results now. I'm going to be one of the lucky ones, right? This is what I'm going to believe, and that's what I'm going after. And that is what I did. And so there was I locked in that belief system that, and I'm going to do all these other things. So I'm going to, exercise, nutrition. I'm going to look at, I'm going to do more meditation. I'm going to, my oncologist mate who I play football with, he said, I asked him, I was like, so the people who seem to do really well through cancer, what's the optimal state I can be in? And he went, most of them are pretty zen, right? And I was like, right, be more zen. But I'd never not done any. Do you know what? I did a course in meditation years back at the Buddhist Centre. It was amazing, and so I kind of plugged back into that. I read all Joe Dispenza stuff, I listened to an hour-long like meditations of trying to go into my subconscious and then thinking and battling it and going right, But most of the time, I'm gonna wake up like, damn it, I'm falling asleep again doing it. But I try. I say all these different things and just complete belief. And it did give me all these other kind of issues, but it just never really, it had little moments, where it would shrink a couple of the tumours. Funny enough, I know we're not necessarily kind of tying it into it, but I realised after so I got it so I started my treatment in the July, and in the February, I was like, of the next year, it wasn't, sometimes people disappear within the first treatment, right? So I had 4 of the really powerful stuff. Sometimes it grows before it shrinks, right? Where the body's fighting it, and if you're one of the lucky ones like that, then you can have complete remission and you might be absolutely fine. But it was just stubborn as a bloody mule, and it would work a little bit. And I decided to take some time off work. And as I said, work had been amazing. And I went on a retreat with Wolo. This was through, again, my mate Rich, who was just the best guy. And he'd introduced me, and he'd said, look, I'm going to go on this, get in touch with them. And we did, so that introduced me properly to doing loads of Wim Hof stuff, right? Did all the cold water treatment, did the breathing work, did loads of meditation, yoga. God, I'm stiff as a mule, honestly. I mean, it was like the Tin Man doing it. It's so embarrassing. And then we did a thing called TRE as well, which I'd never heard of before.
What's that?
Tremor release. Right. And people really emotional off the back of it, and like my legs like shake anyway, after I get into a certain position for too long. But that was amazing, and I came away from there, and we connected incredibly. It was people who were currently going through cancer, who'd been through it, people looking after people with cancer, looking after one of their children. It was an amazing group of people, and I off the back of that, I had some of my best results, right? So because what they did was they then followed up, and we did follow-up sessions for the last, I think, 6 weeks every week, where we would do some breath work together, and it was amazing. And it kind of really kind of developed a habit, and ingrained it. And so that's where my first proper kind of exposure to kind of the amazing Wolo charity kind of came from. And I did have some shrinkage in my chest, but also my spleen. And I was like, okay, amazing. But then it went all the way through the year, and nothing really kind of changed. And then, unfortunately, 18 months in, at the end of the year, December, it just went to all my bones. And so they had to it looked like there was slightly more activity coming in my liver, and so it looked like it wasn't working quite as well. I'd been booked in for a hip replacement as well, because it was at the top of one of my femurs. And in the end, they cancelled that because they were like, literally went to my feet, to my knees, like 3 places in the other femur, like in my arm, ribs. It was almost like a comical amount. Like I was like, my spine, you name it. And so they had to take me off that and that was a potentially curative treatment, onto a more palliative treatment, which was these BRAF inhibitors. And do you know what? Sometimes that can clear everything up, everything disappears, but then it all eventually comes out. Again, some of my tumours have been stubborn and mules and not moved anywhere, but it's definitely helped, because one of the other side effects of the immunotherapy gave me rheumatoid arthritis. And so I had I frozen shoulder for about a year. Just so many different elements, but we won't bore you with all of it.
But I guess every time, how do you keep that positive mindset, that strong mindset? Because especially when you get those little things like, oh, that's shrunk a little bit, or that's it, and then it comes back, and then you get the news that it's everywhere, and then you go, oh, and then this has worked a little bit, but then you get, what What keeps that mindset going?
It's so right at the beginning, 2 or 3 months in, I started seeing a therapist, and initially for CBT, but then it turned to a broader kind of psychotherapy. We just built an amazing relationship, and so whereas I just had her to kind of download onto, and would talk about, some of the kind of negative thoughts, but then, and just coping mechanisms to let them wash over me. And just weird. I mean, some of it we would almost argue with, like with her. I'd be like, well, I've done this, and I'm going to change this. She was like, stop trying to control. Like, you're not, because it's grown a bit, isn't something you've done. I said, it might be. And so we'd properly have a go back and forth. And she went, but how will you ever know? And I won't. And so what helped me was me going, I'm going to try this next, right? For the next 3 months, right? And I'm going to tweak that, and I'm going to do this. But she was like, you're putting too much pressure on yourself. But it is hard, right? When you don't ever really get any positive news, it grinds you. But I'm going, I might just have a really late response to my immunotherapy. Or, you know what? There could be another amazing treatment kind of come out kind of further down the line. I'm just going to make sure I'm alive long enough to benefit from that. And honestly, I mean, I've been on my current treatment for 2 years. They wouldn't allow me on one of the kind of clinical trials because I'd been on this too long. Like normally, you had to be on the immunotherapy within the last 12 months. One of my doctors I met, one of the oncologists, she went, you're doing amazingly well. Most people are dead by now in terms of on yours. I said, most people I meet who are like on your treatment only lasted 15 months. And I was like, oh, thanks so much. It's so good to hear about it. And honestly, genuinely, the most backhanded compliments all the way through it. And I was like, and even when, so at the start of this year, I got sort of, again, my treatment doesn't work very well for liver disease, which I'm like, brilliant. So where I got most of it. And there was quite a few new larger tumours that started to appear 12 months ago, which is why we told the children, because my oncologist was like, you could go downhill so fast, and actually have subsequently been told once it does start to accelerate, it can be game over very quickly. And you know what? I just went, okay, I'm going to live the absolute heck out of this year, or as long as I possibly can. Again, I'd gone back and I was doing some work, more in an oversight, like almost like chairman capacity in my kind of area of the business and helping. But I'd taken on quite a stressful project, like an idiot. And I was like, okay, stress does not work very well for tumours in the liver, especially new ones. So step back. And I was like, right, I didn't really have a bucket list, but I knew what I wanted to do. So I was like, I'm going to go and do some amazing stuff. And you know what? Again, every single 3 months, worse, but not as aggressively. So I'd managed to help it slow down. And you know what? Through the power of belief, through having the best time ever and laughing, the power of expectation of going, right, what next, giving you, like, the purpose of, we talked about golf, right? A lot, because every time I get my cancer diagnosis or bad news, I'm on a golf course, right? But I decided 3 years ago, when I first got it, I was like, right, one of my goals was I am going to get myself to a point. I was playing off about 2 or 3 at the time, handicap, and I was like, I'm going to get myself down to scratch, and I'm going to try and get in the open qualifiers, right? It was a real, and I worked my absolute socks off, but genuinely through a frozen shoulder for a year, so I couldn't even move. Like, I couldn't even move my hand to there. And I had 35 physio sessions. He was like, I've never seen a shoulder like it. And I went, it's the immunotherapy, just as if way. And then, but like some days I couldn't even get out of bed because the pain in my feet, the tumours in my feet were so bad. Knees, this tumour here kept making my left arm numb. It was proving quite difficult at times to swing a golf club. Just kept grinding at it, and then I needed a hip replacement in both hips, but because they started giving me denosumab, which is basically like an osteoporosis style drug, to strengthen the bones, because it just went to too many places. They're like, well, we can't give you a hip replacement there because you need a hip replacement there, and probably replace that bone and that bone and that bone. So they're like, look, let's just do maintenance, and if anything breaks, then we'll deal with it. And worked with an amazing guy called Ryan Fenwick, who's like an absolute legend at West Hove, where he's become a great mate. And somehow I managed to get my handicap down to a point where I could enter the Open this year. Wow. And I brought my mates along, and it was, even my missus came, like, shocked, she'd never been on a golf course. And I was like, I wanted genuinely to go, this is the biggest fuck you to cancer, right? I was like, you're not taking my dreams. I'm still going to show that we can achieve loads of different stuff despite quite a lot of headwind. And, you know, I want it for my kids, for me, for my own, but just give it a proper go. And I swear, I did not play great. I think I was quite overwhelmed with the whole situation. I didn't top it off the first. I hit a great shot. I almost got a birdie, but it was blowing a 30-mile-an-hour wind. I'd had to, with my coach, because I was scared of moving into different, follow through too much, just in case the old left femur broke. And just ailment. Lots of different ailments, and I was like, my spine, that one's giving me a bit of shit as well. Okay, I've got to try that anyway. But I was just, you know what? I was like, it's not going to break me. It's not going to break what I want. And I think learning as well is like, keep growing as people, keep learning, keep pushing forward. And I two of my different mates caddied. I wish I could have had them all. And one did the front nine, and then the other one turned. I bless them. They were like, it's like rabbits in the headlight. It was an absolute car crash. And my coach had offered to do it. And if I ever, if I can make it to the next one, I'm definitely doing that again. But you know what? It was a great experience for all of us. And so that, rewinding, was an amazing goal to work towards, and my practice and just being out on the golf, honestly, it combines so many things for me. So being in nature, the mindfulness. I love playing on my own and the silence. I put on my podcasts, so I do a lot of learning. Genuinely, I do, and I have, so I play at Hollingbury, which is a local muni, and it's got beautiful views, right? And I do stop a lot. I just soak it in. Hear beautiful, the birds singing, or looking at these amazing views and be in that moment, and just the full appreciation of it. Okay. And so but also then keep working towards it. And then after it, and literally the week before that, Sven passed away. Right. So I wore his, he was a big Evertonian, and I'm a big Liverpool fan, but I wore his royal blue, and it's probably why he probably hijacked me. But you know what? It was amazing. And then, but then I think I suffered, like, as you would with your mate, one of your best mates, passing, and I think we all did. But I've also just, I then had a beautiful family holiday. I just loved it. I'd never been to Florence, right? And a client or good friend lent me his place in south of France, and so we then went there and we got a car and we went down to Florence and I'd never been to Rome, and we finished off in Rome, went to Sistine Chapel, did all again, all the kids like, what's the swimming pool like? It was great, right?
Yeah.
And loads of clients this year and loads of friends come together, and as part of my kind of like very broad grey bucket, I went up to St Andrews, and I'd never played there, and played there and played on local courts. Oh my! I've got a funny story in a minute, but I won't. Do you know what? Depends how long we got. But he, and then one of my other clients got me onto Muirfield, and Andy Steele I mentioned before, absolute legend, and that was like, do you know what? For golf, it's so special, and it was just so magical, and but so many people, when I say, you just see the best, and the kindness, and helping me go and play these beautiful places, which just, because the beautiful magnolias all kind of there's just, all these beautiful redwoods around, and you just feel you're so lucky to go into those places. So it's been a real blend this year, and they, I probably confounded what they thought, but then it has gone downhill a bit. I had a bit of a virus before I had my scan, and maybe that's hit me quite hard. But I'm having the right chats, and with the right people, and let's hope there'll be something else, right? And you know what? After this year, I'm like, it's not the quantity of life, it's the quality, right? And my God, I've had a ball. I've had the best. Like I say, the greatest mates. I've travelled with my beautiful wife. We've been to so many beautiful places. I did a road trip with my mates around the US when I finished uni. I've got into so much mischief in my earlier years, but I've just, the laughter and the love and two beautiful children. So, and a wonderful family and support. I feel very blessed in so many ways.
There's so beautiful. There's so many things. I guess for me, like listening to that, there's a couple of things, like going to the start of the year and having, I can't even imagine that conversation to have with the kids. How tough that must have been. And yet then for them to see, because I'm a really believer, I've used this quote so many times, but our greatest freedom in life is how we react to things, right? But it's from the Charlie Maxey book that I love, and but for them to see, have that conversation with them, then to see you react as you did and go, I'm going to go and do this, I'm going to do this, and then to see that you have gone and played in the Open, and you have done that, and you have then gone on these holidays, and your appreciation for life, and like having the lessons, the inspiration that you'll give to them kids.
Thank you.
I can feel it, just amazing, right? And for people listening, I just think that we go through life, and we do, like we face adversity, or we face some problems, and I'm a strong believer, and you're just the epitome of this, right? We have a choice. We have a choice of how we react to something in life, and how you've taken that and gone on and done all these amazing things this year as well, and still with that belief and that hope that despite even some bad news at the end of the year that you still go, you know what, let's see what this year is going to hold in front of us. And I think the second thing I'd really take, all throughout the whole conversation, the talk of relationships and the people around you, and I guess for me, I resonate a lot with it because I feel very blessed with that in my life, right? And you go, I listen to you talk and how you light up when you're talking about all the different people in your life and how grateful that you clearly are for that. But the one common denominator in that is you, right? What just an incredible human being you are as a parent. You know, we only met each other once, and I feel very blessed to have met you and had the conversation we did then and still today. And you are a real inspiration, and certainly, I guess. I guess I've never been great at taking compliments, but I just want that to land. That what an incredible human being you are, and how many just because you can tell by the amount of people that are around you that love you and care for you. Like, that's and that back to the whole essence of the podcast was success, right? Sitting in front of me, that's what it is.
Oh, mate, that's incredibly kind of you. Just. Again, we're not very good at taking compliments, but I'm just incredibly, grateful. One, to have met you, to be put in touch by our wonderful friends at Wolo, but also, just grateful that I've met so many wonderful people in my lives. And I think, if you go with an open heart, right, into so much of life, and you put, you don't have your guard up, and you, go in trusting, and you get so much back from so many, right? Anyway, I'm waffling on, but but there is something I want to say. But I tell you what, I also did, and again, like my wonderful friend Ilga recommended, The Art of Possibilities, brilliant book. I can't remember the guy's name, but it was co-written, and one was like the head of the Philharmonic Orchestra, or kind of over in, I think in Canada or something like that. But and it's something for hopefully for your listeners as well, where he said one of the for people who are creative, and he said everybody was almost stifled. He was teaching in terms of creating their own pieces, because they're all, they were good at kind of following, what I was telling them, but once I was kind of putting it on them, almost their creativity would just kind of like clam up. And he said what I did was I gave them all an A, right? So I said at the start of the term, start of the whole semester, I'm going to give you all an A, but you're going to write me a letter of why I gave you that A, right? And I thought it was amazing, and it gives some examples of the letters, and it was really inspiring. So I wrote myself a letter in October, right, about why I'm giving myself an A for life over this next year, right? And oh my God, it was amazing to do. People talk about and about why I achieved that, and because I don't know if it, you hope it manifests, or kind of like, but again, gives you something if you're having a tough time. Like, almost like I get these beautiful gratitude messages, but if you give and you send gratitude to lots of different people, but also I've received some beautiful ones. It's so powerful, like in terms of things that just even some of the small stuff that I can lean back into. But I know that, like reading that, it just was, and every so often my mum had a tough day. I'm like, right, what did I get that A for again? I can't remember. I was like, but
can you share some of them things that you wrote in the letter?
A lot of it revolved around being the best dad I can be. I think being brave, done with courage. I think got this beautiful quote, so again, from one of the guys from the industry. He said, when his dad was dying, he said, he would always say to him, go brave. And it's those, you're continually going to be brave, right? And you're going to go again. And even if you're going to get setbacks, you go again. I wrote, do you know, I wrote about, I gave myself an A because I finally released my self-imposed shackles. Proud of myself because I've come a long way already in the last few years. You know, and I think I talked about how I've been able to kind of build my resilience and hopefully the character alongside it a bit. And I put, but this last year has given me so much hope. And I pushed through in this fight for my life to show that if you believe, if your mindset is right, if you're unwavering in your mission to survive and thrive, then I can sit here now fully appreciating what life and all that it has to offer. I'll continue to love my wife, see my beautiful children through the different stages of their precious lives, you know, by their side as the proudest dad in the world. Yeah. I got wrote a lot. But you know what? It was incredibly cathartic. I think I've sometimes hidden away. You know, I love what I do, but I like it. I do things in a really very personalised in a perspective, and so never go on podcasts, never put myself out. I do very little social media. And I need to lose my own fear, be brave, hopefully share a bit of, you know, my experience and wisdom. That might have been locked in and might be crying to come out at times. You know, and you know, just being, and as you look death in the face, you lose your vulnerabilities. And I put myself, I'm pretty proud of the person I've become, which I know is yeah.
You should be, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, you should be.
Yeah, I wrote, there's some stuff in it about each day I wake up enthusiastic about learning something new. In the past I was daunted, but now I'm excited to jump into just curiosity and wonder of what will I discover next. Do you know what? And there was yeah. There's a, yeah, blended with some of the ideas and notes I took from, you know, from what I was reading, but it was, yeah, I don't do things, you know, you don't write things out to yourself, right? And definitely don't read them out on something like this, but I do think that, I think it's powerful for everybody to do, right? Set yourself what you want to do for the next year or for life. And yeah, as I said, I think what's really helped me, as I said, I know helping people has been part of who I am, but I also just felt a level of there wasn't the fulfillment. I felt like a bit of a fraud, because I was like, I've been helping lots of people in the industry, but I was like, what about people who really, really, really need it? And so when we did a golf day, and my mate, bless him, put it on for me, and so I really wanted to make it all about Wolo, and we raised loads of money, which was amazing, for them, which I know will help lots of different people, lots of families. Then also, I mean, actually, talking about not doing any of this stuff, to then went with them to Capital FM, and which they're already supported by, but we, and then shared my kind of a little bit of my story on the old breakfast show, and again, just to try and raise melanoma awareness, help other people. It's like on a broader scale, right? And I know they got the biggest ever grant off the back of it, which is amazing, and I was so pleased. I'm not putting it down to myself; it's their amazing work. But hopefully, I've just played a little tiny part in that. It's amazing. And then just, I was meant to have a talk this week with them, which has been pushed back a little bit. Again, helping others in my situation. So, if I can continue to do, pay it forward, help people, that just make me feel more whole, if I'm being honest. On top of, as I said, my priorities are my munchkins and the people closest to me, but, you just, it's in your gut, and it's important to you.
What an amazing legacy, I guess, to leave. Again, that for our kids are similar ages, right? So I constantly, that question to me, like, what am I doing to role model for them and show? And I think, like, every day, every step, everything that you are doing and continue to do, like, for them, like, just to see what a incredible role model and person you are to them, and giving them so many life lessons, right? Like, just through, but not only that, like, I'm really confident. One of the reasons I was so, I feel so honoured and privileged that you're able to come on and share your story so openly and vulnerably as you have. I guess back to maybe one of the first things we spoke about, which was hope, right? I think hopefully people that listen to it, that for whatever they're going through in life, right, whether it be a cancer diagnosis, or whether it be a mental health challenge, or whether it be any form of diversity that we're struggling with in life, that just your mindset and your story alone will give people that little bit of hope. I think that's, for me, it's certainly the thing from meeting you of what I will take away from the conversation, and for you to keep hold of that hope and belief as well. And when you're my Ryder Cup team in April this year, mate, you're there. I've signed you up already, so that's where we're looking.
It's a point to the Americans straight off the bat. Thank you, mate.
Mate, look, we are coming towards a couple of things just to sort of, if we can, wrap up. I guess, like, with everything throughout that incredible story that you shared and life, and I guess, but especially these last few years, I guess what life has thrown at you, and I guess speaking to, if you could leave the message for the kids or something, like what would that biggest life, like, what's the biggest lesson that you feel that you've learned, would you say?
Again, as we can see, like, time isn't promised, right? Kind of live now, and live deliberate, and not later. Choose being present over busy. Focus. The richness of life will come from connection and love, right? I mean, there's so many things I've written down here. I'll go through some of them.
Yeah, please share.
I think put like strength. Strength is honesty, you know. And I question this a little bit, but not stoicism, because I thought a bit of both. Like because I wanted to be stoic. I didn't want to show them that I was upset. And I've tried to remain, you know, dad, who they know and remember. But, you know, I've got to remember that courage, like for all of us, right? If you're too stoic, you don't share, right?
So true.
And so courage isn't pretending everything's fine and, you know, be able to kind of talk about fear without it ruling you. And I think that's brave, and that's, you know, we should all do. I think asking for help isn't weak. Makes you stronger. Every time I got bad news, I knew I had the answers inside me, but you know what? Just an extra comfort blanket. Just sharing that. And do you know what? Sometimes just voicing it, getting it out, rather than it's stuck in. You know, I mean, I've journaled all the way through it. And I always found that getting stuff out of my head, any negative thoughts or things that kind of keep washing over me or kind of concurrent, like, you know, they're going to keep coming back, right? Get them out, right? And especially if I'm struggling to sleep, or there's times when my mind's racing, that's been incredibly helpful. And I do think, you know, we talked about before, but you know, being vulnerable while still marching on and still going forward. It's okay. You know, we're all, boys don't share, boys don't kind of, you know, boys don't cry, boys don't kind of open up and all this kind of stuff. Well, my mates do. Not all of them, but some of them still struggle with it a little bit. But actually, I don't know if I'm just lucky with the people I've got in my life. But they're really well-rounded, and they've seen, you know, with Sven and with everything else that's gone on, especially my mates down here, but also wonderful friends from up north. They're just, and from uni, you name it. I can ask them, I can tell them anything, and we can open up and we can go and sit on the beach and chat. I put, you know, redefine success. You know, for life almost forces it upon you. I was like, yeah, title's fair, and so do careers, but just find meaning and enjoyment in what you do, right? Success, I put, is alignment with others. You know, not how much you've accumulated, not how much you've kind of materialistically got, but it's that connection, it's the energy, it's the just being on the right wavelengths and just feeling comfortable and being able to share. And again, success for me is hugging my boys, feeling their warmth, feeling their energy, going for my walks, playing in the park. Just simple. I don't need, I'm not very complicated. Obviously, I've got a few layers, but I definitely just have, yeah, that's, I'm a very happy man if I've got that, and a golf club in my hand. And I think for a lot of people going through, like, even when you're suffering, you can still go, right, I'm going to choose who I'm going to be today, right? And I think I've woken up and I couldn't, my feet hurt like hell, right in the middle of them from tumours in them. And I'll be like, right, you bastards, you're coming with me on a walk today. And I'm like, oh my God. But you know what? And just keep going, keep moving forward. And just, that has been my kind of mindset, and also a lot of the people around me's mindset, where I've just been, right, and they'll send you lovely little messages and lift you up with positivity. And what I would say, it's a bit of a slight tangent, but it's also lots of people don't know what to say, right? A lot of people feel awkward as hell for people going through all sorts. Just message them, right? Without expectation of a reply. Tell them about your life. What's going on with you? Tell them something funny. I used to sing to Sven down the phone, like the most nonsense songs, making him laugh his head off. He thought it was bonkers, but I used to play it to his missus and his kids as well. Like, I mean, just, sometimes you want it like, and my mates call me like Wayne Lineker, and since I've gone all grey from, and I get Magatu out of Zoolander, and I mean some very rude things about Father Christmas I can't really say on here, but just they give me loads of, I named loads of my tumours, right? So just because I tried to keep, so I called this one Boris because it came around the same time as In Power, and it was see you next Tuesday. The big one in my liver, or by my spleen, was Gru, and the rest of the ones in my liver were the Minions. And then one on my spine, right at the bottom of my back, was Donald, which is close to my backside. And it was just, you know what? It's whatever works for you, right? Yeah. And the darker the humour for me, in many ways, the better. But I think if you're thinking about them, just let them know. Tell them why. Just message them and go, this is why I'm grateful for you. Honestly. Right? Just go, I'm thinking about you, and I just want to let you know that this is why I appreciate you. And you know what? That could be the greatest message they ever receive. Loads of people go, how are you? So it puts the onus on you to kind of comment, right? And sometimes you just like, either I'll have a load that day, or I've got loads of other things in my mind, or just not. But just go, and I just used to tell Sven I loved him every day. Like we literally, I love you. How you doing? Sun is shining, thinking of you. You just, like, we used to then just, so it's lift you up, right?
Love that.
And I wanted to share that because I know lots and lots of people struggle with that. And there'll be days when, and if you send messages and don't expect anything in return, that it will set your own expectations. But just tell them what's going on in your life. Like, just say, oh, it's just something funny that's happened to you, or this, or this. But you just then, and then sometimes then you might just get absolute war and peace from them about what's going on with them. Or, but my dad does that lots, right? And he's been brilliant at it for years. And also, I mean, Ilga does it as well. She sends me, please don't expect it. She just sends me absolutely loads of different stuff. And then I've got, I know it's been really powerful for friends in different situations in their life where people have been estranged or like this. And I just go, don't overthink it. Just tell them how you are, tell them about your life, these kind of things. And amazing things can happen.
It's such a powerful, like, we've done with the You All Right Mate campaign. We've done a focus group recently, a few different groups of men, and one of the things that come out was so much like because I wanted You All Right Mate campaign to ask that question, that check-in, right? Just to check in. I was like, but you're all right. What come out of the conversation was actually, it's so hard sometimes if you're in a shit place and someone says, you're all right, mate, you don't necessarily want to respond. So actually, You All Right Mate started to become, and actually I think what it will become over this year, is that the check-in isn't just about going, you're all right, mate, but going, I love you.
Yeah.
Or you're great. You're great, mate. 100%. Or you're this. Do you know what I mean? It's them. And listening to you talk is so true. Like, just, we don't. And again, back to, I know I keep focusing on men, but back to men, we don't tell each other we love each other enough.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Don't.
Well, no, but do you know what? And it's a point you raised earlier. What I tell my mates, I love them all the time, right? Yeah. And do you know what? If this hadn't happened, probably not, right? Yeah. But we should. Yeah. And why I appreciate them.
Yeah.
And what because none of us know how long we've got. I'm definitely up against it more. Heart attack, the old bus analogy, you name it, right? Loads of different things can kind of come. And don't just get it out. Yeah. Let them know. And because I was going to put like, love fully, live now, be honest, choose meaning over ego. Never underestimate the impact of how you show up, even when life's unfair. And I just think, and then I kind of added about a whole lot of other bullet points about give more than you take, go into relationships with trust and open heart, go brave, be vulnerable. I do like forgive easily. There was a few others in there, but just. You know what? Yeah.
Thank you, mate.
As you can tell, I can go on, right?
Oh, mate, it's been lovely. I'm so grateful for you coming on and sharing. And I could carry on chatting for ages, and we'll do a part 2 later in the year.
Okay.
But
Deal.
We have a closing tradition on this podcast. So this is, I'm going to invite you to one of our top table events as well, because I want you to come and experience them. But this is our storytelling cards, right? So I'm going to give you a card. Choose any card and pass it back to me.
Okay.
And I'll read it out. Okay. What relationships do you want to invest more energy into right now, and why? Well, don't know.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. And continually. I mean, so many, but like my munchkins, right? Yeah. That microdosing with love, just, which I feel all the time as well from all these wonderful people in my life, right? But just, taking a lot of what we've talked about today and just your values, who you are, and just making sure, just chatting to them about these kind of things, that, them everything. And, I love their little bones.
Amazing. Mate, honestly, this has been truly amazing. Thank you so much for your bravery, your vulnerability, your honesty, and just you really are a true inspiration, and will no doubt just people listening to this will, as I mentioned, will give them hope.
Thanks, buddy.
And listen, you're on my Ryder Cup team this year. We're going to play golf in April. We're going to go and smash it. We're 2-2 at a minute. So this is the 50-sider. You're there. You're my number one. You're my captain. Let's go and do that. And listen, I guess all I can say is go brave, my friend.
Yeah, go brave.
And, wherever we're in on that. And as they say, he's a wrap.
Mate, you're a star. Thank you.